In this video, we will learn 10 new words through short stories. It might seem like a small step, but in 100 days, you will easily learn 1,000 words, which is a big achievement. To help you learn better, please watch each video twice. At the end of the video, try to make your own sentences using the new words you've learned. Stay with us and let's explore today's new words.
The night when discord took over. My name is Linnea. It started on a rainy Tuesday evening when my friends and I gathered at Mikhail's tiny apartment. We always met on Tuesdays, our harmony night, as we called it. But that night, harmony was far from reach. It began with a small disagreement over a game. Noor wanted to play one thing while Satoshi suggested another. "Can't we just decide?" Noor said, her voice sharp. Satoshi shrugged, but his silence carried discord. I tried to calm everyone down. "Guys, why are we letting this turn into a fight? It's just a game." But my words were lost. The discord in the room grew louder. Arguments erupted over things as silly as snacks. Mikhail accused Noor of always taking control. Noor rolled her eyes and said Satoshi never contributed. I sat quietly, feeling the tension swirl like a storm. The discord wasn't just about the game anymore, it was about old frustrations bubbling to the surface. "Why are we doing this?" I asked. "We're supposed to enjoy these nights." But no one listened. Then Satoshi stood up abruptly. "I'm done," he said. "This isn't fun anymore." He grabbed his coat and walked out. Noor muttered something under her breath and stormed to the kitchen. Mikhail turned to me. "Linnea, don't you see? This is always what happens. The harmony is fake. It always ends in discord." His words hit me like thunder. Was it true? I thought about our group, our friendships, our memories. "It doesn't have to end like this," I said. "Discord only wins if we let it." Mikhail looked away, unconvinced. By the end of the night, everyone had left. I sat alone, the word discord echoing in my mind. It wasn't just in our group. Discord lives in all relationships, waiting for a chance to break them apart. Question is, do we fight it or let it win?
The day I found my own awareness. My name is Riku. For most of my life, I moved through the world like a shadow. I went to work, came home, and repeated the same routine. I didn't think much about my choices or what they meant. My awareness of myself and the world was absent. One evening, as I walked through Hanami Park, I noticed an old man sitting by the cherry blossom trees. His name was Ezra. Every evening, he sketched birds and wrote poems. "Why do you come here every day?" I asked him. "To find awareness," he replied, smiling gently. "Awareness," I repeated, puzzled. Ezra explained, "Awareness is understanding what's around you and inside you. It's noticing the small details. Without awareness, life becomes a blur." His words stayed with me. That night, I realized I didn't notice anything in my life, not the people around me, not my own feelings. I decided to change. The next morning, I walked to work, paying attention to everything, the sound of birds, the smell of bread from a bakery, the smile of a stranger. With awareness, even the simplest things felt alive. At work, I started listening carefully to my colleagues. I became aware of their struggles and dreams. At home, I talked to my younger sister, Amara, and realized I didn't know much about her. Ezra was right. Awareness changed everything. It connected me to the world and to myself. I felt alive in a way I never had before. One evening, I returned to the park to thank Ezra, but he wasn't there. Instead, I found a small note under the tree where he used to sit. It read, "Awareness is the first step to finding meaning. Keep looking."
The unexpected bonding by the campfire. My name is Alara. I never thought a simple camping trip would change the way I see people. Growing up, I always kept my distance from others. I didn't understand the importance of bonding. Last summer, my best friend Zaina insisted I join her and some friends for a camping trip. "You'll enjoy it," she said. "It's about bonding, not just hiking." I agreed reluctantly. First day was awkward. I didn't know most of the group. There was Yuki, who loved photography, Jamal, who barely spoke, and Kai, who seemed to laugh at everything. They all looked like they belonged, while I felt like an outsider. That evening, we sat around the campfire. Zaina suggested we share stories. "It's good for bonding," she said, smiling. First, I rolled my eyes, but as Yuki shared a story about a bird she saved, I found myself listening closely. Then Jamal spoke about his struggles with public speaking. "I joined this trip because I need to practice bonding with people," he admitted. His honesty surprised me. Kai told a hilarious story about getting lost in his own city. Everyone laughed, and suddenly I didn't feel like an outsider anymore. When it was my turn, I hesitated but shared a memory about my late grandfather, who loved the stars. I admitted I joined the trip because I wanted to feel connected to something again. The group's response was warm and supportive. That night, under the stars, we shared more laughs and stories. The bonding wasn't forced, it felt natural. By the end of the trip, I realized bonding isn't about being perfect or fitting in. It's about being honest, listening, and sharing moments. Now, I look back at that campfire as the moment I understood the power of bonding. Turned strangers into friends and gave me a sense of belonging I had never felt before.
The letter that taught me appreciation. My name is Idris. Growing up in a small town, life was simple but not easy. My mother worked hard every day, but as a teenager, I didn't think much about it. Appreciation was just a word I heard sometimes, but never understood. One evening, after a long day at school, I found my mother sitting at the kitchen table. She looked tired but smiled when she saw me. "Dinner's ready," she said, as she always did. I ate without a second thought. I didn't say thank you. Weeks later, during a school assignment, our teacher, Ms. Anya, asked us to write a letter of appreciation to someone important in our lives. At first, I didn't know what to write. Appreciation? For what? But when I thought about my mother, I started to notice everything she did. I wrote about how she woke up early, cooked meals, worked long hours, and still made time to ask about my day. Writing the letter made me realize how much I had taken her for granted. It was my first real feeling of appreciation. When I gave her the letter, she read it silently. Her eyes filled with tears. "Idris," she said, "this means so much to me." Her voice trembled, and in that moment I felt something I hadn't before, a deep appreciation for her love and sacrifices. From that day my perspective changed. I started saying thank you, helping more around the house, and noticing the little things she did. Appreciation wasn't just a word anymore, it was a feeling that brought us closer. Years later, when I graduated, I handed my mother my diploma. "This is for you," I said. Her smile told me she understood. A father's affection under the cherry tree. My name is Kaito, and I grew up in a small village surrounded by cherry trees. My father, Hideo, wasn't a man of many words. He was strong, quiet, and always busy working in the field. As a child, I didn't understand his affection. Every spring, when the cherry blossoms bloomed, my father took me to the largest tree in the village. He would bring a kite he had made himself. "Fly it high, Kaito," he'd say. I loved those moments, but I didn't see them as affection. To me, it was just a fun day. As I grew older, I became distant. I thought my father didn't care because he never said, "I love you." I didn't realize that his affection was in the way he made my favorite rice cakes, or the way he fixed my kite when it tore. One spring, when I was 16, I refused to go to the tree with him. "I'm too old for that," I said. He didn't argue, but I noticed the sadness in his eyes. Still, I ignored it. Years later, after moving to the city for work, I got a call. My father had passed away. When I returned home, I found a box under my bed. Inside was every kite we had ever flown together. There was also a note. "Kaito, I hope you always remember the affection I showed you under the cherry tree." Tears filled my eyes. I finally understood. His affection wasn't loud or obvious. It was in the quiet, consistent ways he cared for me. I went to the cherry tree that spring, holding one of the kites. As I flew it, I felt his love in the wind.
A glimpse of admiration through the canvas. My name is Leona, and I have always admired artists. Their ability to create beauty from nothing has filled me with admiration since I was a child. Yet, I never thought I would meet someone who could inspire my admiration more deeply than Renji. Renji was a painter in our small coastal town. His work wasn't famous, but it was breathtaking. His paintings captured not just landscapes but emotions, waves of hope, skies of sorrow, and sunsets of joy. I often stood in front of his little gallery, staring at the canvases with admiration. One day he noticed me. "Do you like my work?" he asked. His voice was gentle, yet it carried a quiet confidence. "Yes," I whispered, feeling my cheeks warm. "I've never seen anything like it." Renji smiled. "Thank you. But admiration is a two-way street. It's not just about liking something, it's about understanding it." His words stayed with me. Over the next few weeks, Renji began to teach me how to paint. "Start small," he said, handing me a brush. "Paint what you admire most in the world." I painted the ocean, the cliffs, and the old lighthouse. Each stroke of the brush deepened my admiration for his talent. But it wasn't just his art that I admired. It was his patience, his kindness, and the way he saw beauty in everything. One evening, as the sun set over the sea, Ranji handed me a canvas. It was a portrait of me, standing by the cliffs with the wind in my hair. I stared at it, speechless. "This is how I see you," he said. "You have your own light, Leona. Don't forget that." In that moment, my admiration for Ranji grew into something deeper, a mix of gratitude, respect, and inspiration.
The decision that required true consideration. My name is Hiroshi, and I have always been the kind of person who rushes into decisions. But one day, a situation taught me the true meaning of consideration. It was during the rainy season in Kyoto. I worked in a small antique shop owned by Mr. Nakamura, an elderly man who treated his customers with remarkable consideration. He would listen carefully to their stories before suggesting an item from his collection. One afternoon, a young woman named Amara entered the shop. She was looking for a special gift for her grandmother. "She loves history," Amara said, her voice soft yet anxious. "But I don't know what to choose." Mr. Nakamura smiled and handed her an old teacup. This belonged to a family who shared tea every evening for over 50 years. "It's more than a cup, it's a symbol of togetherness." Amara hesitated. "It's beautiful, but I want to think about it." Later, I asked Mr. Nakamura why he didn't push her to buy it. "Hiroshi," he said, "consideration is about understanding someone's needs, not forcing a decision. Give her time." That night I thought about his words. I realized that in my own life, I often acted without consideration, without thinking about how my choices affected others. The next day, Amara returned. She looked at the teacup and said, "I thought about it. This is perfect. Thank you for your patience." Seeing her smile, I understood the power of consideration. It wasn't just about thinking deeply, it was about respecting others and giving them space. Since then, I've tried to bring more consideration into my life. I take the time to understand people, their feelings, and their choices. And every time I do, I feel closer to them.
When Noor took the initiative. My name is Noor and I work in a bustling library in Amman. For years I blended into the background, quietly organizing books and assisting visitors. But last winter, something happened that taught me the value of taking initiative. Started when the head librarian, Mr. Tarek, announced a project to create a reading program for children in our city. The idea was exciting, but no one seemed willing to take the lead. Even I hesitated, wondering if I had what it took. Days turned into weeks, and still nothing moved forward. I finally decided to take the initiative. "Mr. Tarek," I said one morning, "I have ideas for the program. Can I share them?" He looked surprised but nodded. I spent the night drafting a plan. It included storytelling sessions, creative writing workshops, and even a small competition to encourage reading. When I presented it to the team, their faces lit up. Taking the initiative wasn't easy. I had to contact schools, arrange volunteers, and deal with setbacks. Some people doubted me, saying, "This is too ambitious, Noor." But I kept pushing forward because I believed in the project. On the day of the first event, over 50 children showed up. They listened to stories, laughed, and even shared their own. One boy said, "I didn't like books before, but now I want to read more." Hearing that, I realized how powerful initiative can be. It's not just about starting something, it's about believing in a vision and taking steps to make it real. Now the program is a success, and it all began because I took the initiative. I've learned that waiting for someone else to act often means nothing happens. Sometimes you have to be the one to move first. Alina's sensitivity saved the day. My name is Alina, and I've always been told that my sensitivity is a weakness. Growing up in a small town in Finland, people said, "Alina, you feel too much. Toughen up." But I didn't believe sensitivity was bad. It helped me understand others. One winter evening, while working as a caregiver in a retirement home, I noticed Mr. Rajiv sitting alone. He wasn't eating his dinner. The other staff shrugged, saying, "He's just in one of his moods again." But I sensed something deeper. I sat beside him and gently asked, "Mr. Rajiv, is something wrong?" First, he didn't respond, but I didn't give up. My sensitivity told me that silence often hides pain. Finally, he whispered, "It's my daughter's birthday today, and I haven't seen her in years." Hearing this, my heart ached for him. I took the initiative to call his daughter. She sounded surprised but agreed to visit. I didn't stop there. I gathered the residents and organized a small party for him. When his daughter walked in, tears filled his eyes. He held her hand, and for the first time I saw him smile. The other staff, who had dismissed my sensitivity, now looked at me differently. Later, my supervisor said, "Alina, your sensitivity is your strength. You notice what others overlook." From that day, I stopped hiding my sensitivity. Instead, I embraced it as a gift that helps me connect with people in ways others cannot. Sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's the ability to feel, understand, and bring kindness into the world.
When transparency mended the broken bond. My name is Arvid, and for years, I avoided conversations that required transparency. I thought silence would solve problems, but it only created walls. Last summer, my younger brother, Niyaz, stopped talking to me. We had always been close, but after I refused to lend him money for his small business, he felt betrayed. Instead of explaining my reasons, I avoided him. Transparency felt too hard. Months passed. Our parents begged me to make peace, but I didn't know where to begin. One rainy afternoon, I found myself at Niyaz's cafe. He was sweeping the floor, his face tired and his movements slow. "Why are you here, Arvid?" he asked coldly. Taking a deep breath, I said, "To talk. To explain. I owe you transparency." I told him everything, the financial struggles I was hiding, my fears of failing as an elder brother, and my guilt for not supporting him. With every word, I saw his expression soften. "I never needed your money, Arvid," Niyaz said quietly. "I needed your trust and honesty. Transparency matters more than anything." In that moment, I realized how many relationships break because of a lack of transparency. If I had shared my worries earlier, we wouldn't have drifted apart. We sat for hours, rebuilding our bond through open and honest communication. Niaz told me about his struggles, his hopes, and how my silence had hurt him. Transparency became our new promise, no more walls, only truth. Today I visit his cafe every week. We laugh, talk, and work together. Transparency healed what silence had broken. It's not always easy, but it's the foundation of trust and understanding.